Welcome into this second edition of Pack-A-Day Live this week. We had one on Tuesday. No happy hour this week. Didn't have the opportunity to do it in that time range. You guys may have surmised by now that there's really no difference between happy hour and Pack-A-Day Live. So just a different title scheme, I guess, more than anything. But we did two later ones this week, which is usually, again, if it's 7 o'clock, I usually do Pack-A-Day Live. If it's around more 4 o'clock, call it happy hour. Same thing. We're going to ask or have you guys ask a lot of questions. We'll answer as many as we can possibly get to. Appreciate you guys a ton. Thanks so much for being here. We've got a lot to get into, obviously. Injury report, Packers, Seahawks, rest of the season, 4 games left, which seems crazy to say. And of course, hopefully, fingers crossed, and what should be a playoff berth coming up here in the near future. But we will get to your questions right away and get to as many as we possibly can over the next hour or so. All right, we'll start with the almighty supreme one since he got his question in first today. It came in at 523 to get it asked. Musgrave's yards per route before he got injured were pretty low. Forgot the exacts of it. So I'm really hoping when he returns, they use him down the seam much more. Yeah, I would caution you a little bit to just all of a sudden expect that Musgrave comes back and is this difference maker within the offense. Do I think he can help? Absolutely. Do I think that there is a big time upgrade there between Ben Sims, John Fitzpatrick, and what Luke Musgrave can bring to the table? Absolutely. I will say this, and I've said it. I went back to this end of last year, even in the offseason. Tucker Kraft is tight end 1. And I think you guys probably are, everyone's on board with that now, right? But like, that's unquestioned. Tucker Kraft is tight end 1. There's no more discussion about that. Probably as long as Tucker Kraft is in Green Bay, he will probably remain tight end number 1. Musgrave, though, has the ability to be a big time number 2. He can, there's been games so far with Tucker Kraft where he's played every single snap or near to it. I think they can now put, once they get Musgrave back, they can use him to spell Kraft a little bit more. So Kraft doesn't have to play every single snap. It gives you another option there. And then it does just give you some more unique 2 tight end sets, which I'm sure Matt LaFleur will lean into and be excited to kind of open up with that offense a little bit more. I'm sure that's a formation he'd like to have used more of, but Sims and Fitzpatrick, not difference makers at that spot. It's not exactly getting your best 11 guys out on the field when doing so. So I do think he will help in that regard. Musgrave still has a ways to go as a developmental tight end, right? Just kind of working on the nuances of route running and gaining separation. And then you also have to make sure that you are doing a little bit job of, Musgrave stayed on his feet, not stumbling out of the blocks as soon as you get going. And then, just kind of the nuances of blocking as well, which he's never going to be a great blocker, but he does give good effort at it. But he can definitely improve there as well. So there's still a ways to go. I don't think he's going to, again, be this impact player when he gets back, but I do think he can be a upgrade at that number 2 tight end position and give Green Bay a few more options within that offense. Let's get to some super chats. Emily, you are way too kind. Thank you so much for that. Love your show. Feel like I've learned a lot from listening. I was watching the draft with my husband and dad and impressed them when I said we draft Edgerrin Cooper next. And then we drafted Edgerrin Cooper right after I said that. That's awesome, Emily. Love to hear it. Glad you liked the show. Obviously, I had a really fun one today with Mina Kimes. Hopefully, you had the opportunity to check that one out. Really fun to be able to record with her. She's everything you would have expected to be, just super kind, super nice. And it was just awesome to be able to get to talk Packers with her, quite frankly. So glad you were able to make the prediction in the second round. Glad it worked out with Edgerrin Cooper and seemingly has worked out with the Packers drafting him as well. Mike, if you had to rank the top 10 teams according to Super Bowl odds or my favorites, where would I rank the Packers and why? So I went through this quick. I don't know that I have like a super great feel, but just kind of off the top of my head, I put Lions first. I don't think I'm breaking any news there. I put Bills second. So we get a Lions-Bills matchup this week. I know Bills just lost to the Rams, but I still think the Bills are the second best team following Detroit. So we could get a potential Super Bowl matchup this week in that game. I'm going Eagles third. I don't feel great about the Eagles, but I do think that they are worthy of being in that conversation. So I'll go Eagles third. I'm going Vikings fourth. I've been higher on the Vikings for a pretty long time now, just from what they've been able to do this season. Obviously, Jefferson and Addison, 2 incredibly talented wide receivers that give teams a ton of trouble. What their defense and offensive schemes are doing are fantastic. Kevin O'Connell is amazing. So I'm going Vikings 4, as much as it pains me to say. Packers 5, Ravens 6. I'm not a believer in the Chiefs, although I wouldn't surprise me if they turned it on come playoff time and even played better once the playoffs start. But I'm going Chiefs 7, Texans 8, Steelers 9. I'm actually going Rams number 10. I don't know if they're going to get in the playoffs, But if they do make a run into the playoffs, and that would probably have to start tonight, right? Getting a win over San Francisco. If they do make a run and get into the playoffs, that is not a team that I would want to face. And I think they showed it against Buffalo last week. Like that team with Puka and with Cooper Kupp, and when they're firing on all cylinders, Kyron Williams, Matthew Stafford, they can put up some serious freaking points. So I don't know that they're going to get in, but if they do get in, I will put them at number 10. So Lions, Bills, Eagles, Vikings, Packers, Ravens, Chiefs, Texans, Steelers, and Rams in that order. As always, Super Chats will go right to the top of the list, but we'll, as always, try to get to as many questions as I possibly can. Tim, congrats on the Mina pod, jumping in to say, if not for the OPI, taking away the touchdown, we are remembering that last drive as an all-timer from Love. He was stellar, clutch play after clutch play. Yeah, I mean, he was awesome in the second half of that game. And I do wish that, it could have been a different outcome. So people would have maybe given him the props and praise that he deserved for putting together a near flawless second half and really bringing that team back. And obviously some help from the Keyshawn Nixon pick and the fourth down stop on defense, getting them in some advantageous down and distances. But even still, you have to be thrilled with the way that Jordan Love played in that second half. Would you have liked to see the offense play better in the first half? Absolutely. But, game on the line when you absolutely had to have it, outside of a bogus PI call, I mean, he should have had a potential game-winning touchdown at the end. Now, who knows? Maybe Detroit just goes down and scores a touchdown anyway, and it doesn't get the credit it deserves either. But either way, he was really, really good in that second half, and you have to be excited about that. Thanks for doing all these Q&As, Andy. You are the best, John. I appreciate that. How did Kadeem Telford look at guard? Is he next man up at tackling guard now? I think he is, until Jordan Morgan comes back. This is somebody that if you go back to minicamp, I actually talked about him getting some time at guard. They would there would be some number 2 lines that would have Caleb Jones and Kadeem Telford next to each other. For those of you who don't remember, Caleb Jones was like 6'9", 380, like just mammoth human being. And then Kadeem Telford is like 6'7", 340. Like he's normally about as big of a football player as you're going to see on the field. And then Caleb Jones just like dwarfed him. Like it was just like, they're two just huge humans. And they would use them at Caleb Jones at left tackle and Kadeem Telford at left guard and just maul people in the run game, especially because they were going against a lot of second and third teamers. And it was fun to watch. Now, I liked what Kadeem Telford did in that limited opportunity in minicamp and OTAs and those sort of things when given the opportunity at guard. Just like the fact that they were giving him some opportunities to play some different spots too. But I was not surprised at all when there was that injury to Sean Ryan last week that it was Kadeem Telford that went and played that spot. That would have been my expectation going into that game. But yeah, he seems to be the next man up. As far as how he played, I think there were like 3. He played more than 3 snaps, but most of them were neutral. I think there were like 3 gradable ones. He had, I think, a positive and 2 negatives or something like that. It ended up being a very slight negative grade for him, but overall, yeah, he looked the part. It's such a small sample size that it's really tough to say, but I'd be excited is the wrong word. I'd be intrigued to see what he could do with more snaps. And I think he would be serviceable. I don't think we're going to get to a situation where this is like, just somebody that's like, oh my God, this guy's terrible. I don't think we're going to get into a Jason Spriggs situation here. I think he would be fine. I think he would be workable. You would prefer obviously some upgrades there, but no, in the little that we saw, he looked totally fine. Didn't look too big for him at all. Is LVN versus Christian Gonzalez going to be the next Kevin King versus TJ Watt? Not to that extent. No, I don't think so. What I will say here is LVN will, I think, he'll have a better career than Kevin King did. And Christian Gonzalez will not have the career TJ Watt did. So you close the gap on that a little bit. I mean, Kevin King is a bust all the way around at corner and TJ Watt's a Hall of Famer. So bust to Hall of Famer, that's a pretty big gap between the two. I think LVN will be a solid pro. I think Christian Gonzalez will be a Pro Bowler at some point. So there's still a gap there, but I don't think it'll be to the level of anywhere near the difference between Kevin King and TJ Watt. Simplified version of the Mike McDonald defense, what fronts and coverages. They're a 3-4 team. I think back to the Baltimore Ravens and what they like to do over the last couple of years. He really kind of revolutionized that defense in Baltimore. And by the way, that Baltimore defense has not been the same with him gone. Like they have not been able to pick up the pieces with McDonald leaving. Personnel has something to do with that, but it has not been the same with him gone. A lot of disguised coverages on the back end, a lot of simulated blitzes, and a lot of just making your head spin as an offensive, like what's coming next. So they'll use a variety of different coverages, really mix it up on you, but 3-4 team, simulated pressure, really like to get penetration up front. You have speed and athleticism off the edges. And then, like I said, a lot of confusion on the back end. So there's your nuts and bolts of it. Manuel Wilson has really been averaging a lot of yards per carry. Is that because teams let up against the run when Jacobs goes out? I think most of that, well, first of all, let me say, I think Emmanuel Wilson's a really good running back. Like, I think when it comes to carrying the football, I mean, he's really good. Again, I think there's things that he can do from pass catching standpoint, route running, even pass pro that he can continue to improve upon, which he has, by the way. But he, as far as just a pure runner handed off to him, he's really good. He's really, really good. I really enjoy watching the way that he runs. He runs hard. He runs physical. He's a big guy that also has, quickly gets up to speed. There's a difference between like an AJ Dillon who took a few steps for him to get up to speed, right? Wilson can explode, but he's got that bulk to him as well, where all of a sudden he's like a freight train and like, I don't want to tackle that guy. So I think that, first of all, he's a good running back. But number two, I think it's a little bit been circumstantial. And I don't think there's any reason why he's got the yards per carry. I think sometimes you just get the runs that have a little bit better blocking. I think he's got a couple of those, but he's also made the most of them. And he's a really fun and entertaining runner. I think Green Bay really found a really nice player, especially on the undrafted free agent circuit, and being able to find him was a really nice job by the front office. What adjustments do you think Matt LaFleur will make against teams stacking the box to take away Jacobs? Same thing you saw in the second half last week. Like, once they kind of figured out what Detroit was doing, it wasn't a problem. I mean, Matt can beat any defense. All right. Pure and simple. Matt can find ways. And it really took them sort of two drives, because I think that third drive started off with exactly what you wanted against that defense, with the crosser to Christian Watson. They get the explosive play. I think they would have gone on to score on that drive, except Watson fumbles it, right? So to me, it took them two drives to really kind of get into a flow and figure out what Detroit was doing. And then Matt settled in and was good to go from there. And they just kept putting up points. I think would have even had more, again, had it not been for a Christian Watson fumble, and had it not been for the touchdown getting taken off the board at the end where they had to settle for the field goal. I mean, I think Green Bay could have put up 40 in that game without too much of an issue. So just getting more into bunch sets and motion at wide receiver, making or allowing your wide receivers to get off the line of scrimmage a little bit easier. And then, taking those shots downfield too, like we saw to Christian Watson on the deep ball down the field. That this will not be something that's like all of a sudden they like, oh, Detroit found something, right? Even where Detroit caught him off guard and maybe had a leg up early in that game, Green Bay still put up 31 points. So no, there's no real concern here. I do think some teams may try to copy and paste a little bit of what Detroit did, but Green Bay's not going to have a problem. And like I said, there's nothing that you can throw at Matt that he does not have an answer for. He knows how to attack every single defense. You can tell he's frustrated when, he doesn't get the better of it, because he knows how to beat every defense. There's no question about it. So there's not going to be, in my opinion, any major issue there. Why has the screen game not been better? I don't know. It's one thing that they just cannot seem to get down. And it does not make a ton of sense, because they have the agility and the speed and the athleticism along the offensive line. They've got good backs to run it. They've got Tucker Kraft, who should be theoretically really good to run it. They've got run after the catch guys, and they've got really good blocking wide receivers. So they have kind of everything it needs. My personal belief is they don't do a good enough job of selling it, meaning it seems like they get a little anxious of like wanting to get out into their blocks right away. You really have to sell as if it's going to be a normal pass play. Get everyone to commit upfield, and then get them to take the bait, throw them backwards towards the quarterback, get upfield, dump it down to the back, go annihilate some corners and safeties, and then get up the field. But the timing element of it is so important, and you got to have a poker face. Like, you've got to do everything the exact same. Defensive linemen are really, really good. If you give any sort of tell, if you start getting upfield a little bit sooner, they're just going to turn around and look for the screen game, right? So it's definitely something that they need to do a better job of from a timing and just poker face standpoint. I think if they could get those two things down, I think they have everything else for it to be successful, but it just has not really gotten to that point yet. Andy, you always have the best Packer content on the internet. Question: can you see the Packers running the table the rest of the way out? Mike, I appreciate that a ton. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, that really does mean a lot. And listen, I feel the pressure constantly from all the other amazing people that are covering the Packers as well. Sincerely, like, we are very blessed as Packer fans to have a lot of great people that are covering the team in a variety of different capacities. So it's a grind to stick with everyone else that's doing all the other great stuff too. So I appreciate that a ton. That's as big of a compliment as I can get, because I know the quality of people that are putting out some unbelievable stuff out there. As far as run the table, So you're talking like an 8-0 run, I'm assuming. So four regular season games, 3, playoff wins and a Super Bowl win. Can they? Sure. Will they? Probably not. Yeah. Listen, I think that they have the ability to go on a run. I'm honestly telling you this, like I really truly believe this. I think they're going to have a setback still in the regular season. I think they're going to lose one of these games in the regular season, and I think that's okay. I'm not super concerned about that. Like if they go 3-1, and I'm not talking about like winning 3 and then like sitting everyone against the Bears and losing that Bears game in a glorified exhibition or something like that. But if they lose like this week to Seattle, if they lose to Minnesota on the road, I'd be pretty disappointed if it was like Chicago or New Orleans, right? But like if they lose one of these games, I'm not super concerned over it. I think this team still has things that they need to sort of recognize that they need to be a bit more in tune with and like perfect a little bit more. I think sometimes, and I've said this before, sometimes losing and maybe even getting upset by a team can wake you up a little bit more. And this is a team that really does love to grind and find ways to be the best versions of themselves. And it does seem sometimes that when they go through adversity, they come out stronger on the other side. I'm not saying that I'm hoping that's the case. I would love for them just to go 8-0 the rest of the way. But if they lose to Seattle, maybe lose to Minnesota, lose to one of these teams, whatever, go 3-1 in the regular season, learn whatever lesson it is that they need to learn, and then go 4-0 in the playoffs. I think that could happen. 8-0, not impossible, but if you told me that they, like Chicago, New Orleans, they could win, right? So on the road against Seattle, on the road against Minnesota, you're talking about those 2, which are playoff teams, plus 3 actual playoff teams, plus a Super Bowl team. You're talking about a 5-0 run against playoff teams all on the road. That is a tough thing to do. So I don't think so, but I don't think going 4-0 in the playoffs and Super Bowl is out of the question at all. I wouldn't be stunned if Green Bay lost a game still here in the regular season. And it's not going to really change all that much. So I'm not overly concerned about it. I just want to see this team consistently get better over the next 4 weeks. In fact, I kind of wouldn't hate if they lost this game to Seattle and then got pissed off about it and then went on a 3-game run, and maybe then they go on a 7-0 streak, right? But we'll see. One game at a time. And the biggest thing is that they go 4-0 in, starting with the playoffs. That's really all that matters at this point. They're going to get in. They're going to be a playoff team. Just find a way to, seal that deal first. And then how can you go 4-0 come start of the wild card round? Go Pack. Why did Holmgren leave for Seattle? Wanted GM responsibilities as well. So just wanted more power, basically. He was blocked here by Ron Wolf. Ron Wolf was the GM. He was the head coach. He wanted the say over the entire organization, basically. So, and there's probably other stuff that went into it as well. And I'm probably just misremembering some of it, but my recollection of it is that he wanted to be coach and GM, and Seattle was willing to give him a little bit more of that power. All right. I think there was a couple other super chats that came in. Or John, first of all. Maybe I just clicked that one on accident. Yep, we talked about that. All right, and then Daryl, 80 every week I go into a game hoping that our corners can hold up against top wide receivers. Am I wrong? Well, you're not wrong to hope for it, that's for sure. And let me just say this. When it comes to, the corners holding up against top tier wide receivers, right? Well, let's talk through that. Because go back to, just bringing it up here, Week 11 against the Bears, right? DJ Moore, 7 catches for 62 yards. Keenan Allen, 4 for 41. Adunze, 6 for 65. None of those guys beat you to any major extent, right? Like you mostly held those 3 guys in check. Week 12, all right, how about those 49ers wide receivers? Now, they didn't have like Brandon Ayuk or whatever, but receiving-wise, Juwan Jennings, 5 for 40. Deebo Samuel, 1 for 21. They shut down those wide receivers pretty darn well. Week 13 against Miami. How about, going against 2 of the better wide receivers, especially one of the best, if not the best, in Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill, 6 for 83 and a touchdown, and that touchdown was very fluky, as we know. And then you had Jalen Waddle, 4 for 53. Like those wide receivers didn't tear Green Bay up to any real level, like not to the level that they're capable of, right? And a lot of those yards were certainly in garbage time. And then go back to this week against Detroit. Amon-Ra St. Brown, who's like they spam that guy all the time. 5 catches, 43 yards. Jameson Williams, 5 for 80. Like that's a decent day for Williams, but like they have not allowed, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, like these top tier wide receivers to just go off on him. Now, in some clutch situations, have they given up some touchdowns to wide receivers and some big plays over the middle, some have to have it situations? Yes. Am I saying that they have this shutdown cornerback core or anything like that? No. But on the outsides, going against some good wide receivers, that has not really been their weakness. Their weakness has been more over the middle of the field, which has been including some of those wide receivers, but they're also playing a lot of zone in those situations. It hasn't really been, it's not like Stokes or Valentine or Nixon are just getting nuked over and over and over on the outside and they can't stop the outside passing game. I wouldn't say that that's been the problem at all. Like they've been good against the run. They've been good against the deep ball. They've been good on the pretty good on the outsides. It's that middle of the field that's been a major issue. And part of that is the outside corners too. I'm not saying it's not, but that's not been a major issue for this team. Can they be better? Yes. Does getting Jair Alexander back help them? Absolutely. But I'm not super concerned. Like I've talked about Stokes. I don't know why he continues to get playing time, but Nixon and Valentine have been serviceable on the outside, given everything that they've had to go against them with not having Jair out there. So I don't think it's quite as big of an issue as maybe some people are making it out to be, but you would still love for it to be upgraded in some significant way. No question. All right. Let's see. Shane, what's your favorite non-regular jersey outfit? I'm not exactly sure I know what you mean by this, Shane. My favorite non-regular jersey outfit. Do you mean, I might need a little clarification on this. Do you mean like a not famous like player that I wear their jersey of, or do you mean like what's just my favorite outfit that's not a Packers jersey? I'm not a jersey guy. Maybe that's probably the best way to answer this question. I'm not a jersey guy. I don't own any jerseys. It's been a long time since I've owned a jersey, probably since, I think like Greg Jennings rookie year, I think I had a Greg Jennings jersey. That probably was my last one that I had. And I didn't wear it all that much. So, just never been when I was growing up, I had a ton of jerseys, when I was a kid. But yeah, once I got to adulthood, kind of gave up the jersey game a little bit. So that's probably the best way to answer that question. Kind of unfortunate that a top 45 pick at tight end isn't even tight end 1 on his own team. I don't know. Then I guess it's super fortunate that a pick that they got a round later is number 1 on their team. Like, draft good football players, figure out the rest later. I think Musgrave can be a really good football player. And Tucker Kraft is just awesome. Like they've drafted both of those guys. And like, I would much more be willing to say like they did an awesome job drafting Tucker Kraft than did anything else. Like I think Luke Musgrave has the ability to be tight end 1 on certain teams and in the NFL. Like I think he can be easily a top 32 tight end in this league. But it's just even more awesome that they found a top 5 to 10 tight end, if not potentially better than that down the road in the 3rd round. So I don't know. I see it more as a positive than a negative. Go Pack. Tucker Kraft is going to be one of the best tight ends in the league. The total package, New York, she said, I agree with you. Drew BDU, I would love to see this defense make teams beat them in the air when Alexander comes back. Yeah. I mean, I think that's what they're trying to do anyway, because they've done a really good job of kind of limiting the run game as of late. So you're stopping the run at a pretty good clip right now, going back to really since the bye week. Chicago, Miami, San Francisco, even Detroit has not had their usual running performances against Green Bay. They're making teams kind of beat them through the air. And now hopefully you have a little bit better chance of shutting them down with Jair Alexander back. And hopefully you get Evan Williams back. We'll see if he can clear concussion protocol in time. Seems like, not that you would really be expected to play, but it seems like Corey Ballantyne is trending in the right direction. And it looks like it just might be Bullard in that defensive backfield that may be unable to go this week. And I think they can definitely survive that. Probably looking at Jair on the outside, Nixon in the slot, Williams and McKinney at safety, and then a platoon of Stokes and Valentine still at that other outside corner spot. I don't see them signing any outside corner, nor do I think it would be a appreciable upgrade at the position. yeah, if they take a flyer on somebody, fine. I'm not going to be upset by it. Like, so let's see what they can do. They found Rasul Douglas on a practice squad out of nowhere. So it's not impossible, but I would not expect Patrick Peterson or somebody like that to just come in and all of a sudden be playing great football. But I will say this, Super Bowl teams, right? 96, 2010, Andre Rison sort of getting into that washed up wide receiver phase of his career, pick him up midseason. I think it was off of waivers, if I remember correctly, or either that he was a street free agent. I think it was waivers, and add him to the team. And what does he do in the Super Bowl? Comes up with the opening touchdown of the game. Howard Green, player that the Packers picked up in 2010, not expecting much out of him. Maybe more of a run-stopping defensive tackle that can rotate in and play a handful of snaps per game. What does he do? Pressures Ben Roethlisberger in his own end zone. Roethlisberger throws one up for grabs. Nick Collins picks it off. Pick six the other way. Massive game-changing moment. Maybe Goody's got a Howard Green or an Andre Rison still up his sleeve. Who knows? Those are not players that you were expecting to come in and have major moments in a Super Bowl, yet there they were, making major moments in the Super Bowl. So maybe they can, maybe Goody can find his Howard Green. Maybe Goody can find Eric Walden was another one in the Super Bowl too. That didn't have that big play, but like Zombo and Walden were guys that they found too. Like, you never know where these guys are going to come from. And all of a sudden you fit them in, you find a role for them, and they kind of change the fortunes of your season. So I don't expect that to be the case, but again, you never quite know where it's going to come from. I didn't expect it to be the case with Andre Rison or Howard Green either. Thank you, Mike. Why does LaFleur continue to say the rotation with Valentine and Stokes will continue? It's clear Stokes should not be on the field. I got nothing for you, Sean. Sorry for my Coke Zero opening there. Give me 1 second. I've got absolutely nothing. For those of you who have not heard my statistic, which Bill Huber initially brought to my attention, Eric Stokes has not had a pass breakup since his rookie season. He has played over 1,000 snaps in the last 3 seasons, this year included, and has not had a single pass breakup nor a single interception. I don't get it. I don't know. I have no understanding of it. I can't make sense of it. My grades, Carrington Valentine has a higher negative than the next 2 lowest grades on the team combined. I'm sorry, Eric Stokes is a higher negative than the next 2 players on the team combined. Carrington Valentine's right around a neutral grade. It's not even remotely close. Eric Stokes is a free agent after this year. Carrington Valentine is 2 years longer on his deal. Carrington Valentine is younger. Carrington Valentine has more upside. I got nothing. And it's not to say that Carrington Valentine has like gone out and played great football by any means. He hasn't. He's been fine, but he's been fine. And Eric Stokes has not been fine. He's been bad. And last I checked, fine is better than bad. So I don't get it. I don't pretend to get it. I don't understand it. Hopefully the Packers are just right on this one. And I would love to be wrong, but it has not been trending that way as of that moment. I don't get it. Do not get it. Congrats on getting Mina big time. Joseph, thanks so much for that. She was awesome. I forget what the initial interaction was, but like there were a bunch of Packer fans. I think I responded to her on something. I don't remember what the exact conversation was. And then like a bunch of Packers fans were like, we got to make this happen somehow. Like, how can we get Mina on the Pack a Day podcast? And then she responded back of like, oh, we might have to, I set something up. And I just responded back like, yep, let's do it anytime you want. And then she was awesome and like DM'd me, like, I think the next day. And it's just like, hey, just let me know when a time might work for you. And, set me up with her email, and then email back and forth, like right after that. And this was probably like 2 months ago. And she's like, here's some times I could work. And I'm like, I know how busy you are. Does this work? Or would it be easier for you to do Packer Seahawks week? Cause I know, she keeps a little extra eye on the Seahawks, and she's like, yes, that works perfect. So we knew this was going to come for, I want to say maybe a month or two now, but it was great to set it up. And you never know too, like sometimes things like that can fall through and people get busy and all of a sudden, it just doesn't come to fruition. The other thing that scared me, like a day before, I was looking at it, and when I was emailing her, she gave me her email address, and then I emailed her at that address. And then all of a sudden I looked back at some of the responses back and forth, and like when we set up the time to do it, and the email address was slightly different. And I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, am I getting like, is somebody messing with me here that like somehow I got the wrong email address and I've set this entire thing up with a fake Mina Kimes account. And I'm like, this is awful. I was like so nervous. And then so I like emailed her back on the initial email. And I don't know, I still do this. I haven't looked into it enough to see like how it happened. I think she just has 2 emails that she probably uses for different things or whatever. But like, I thought I screwed something up, and I'm like, oh my God, here I'm like talking to like fake Mina Kimes, and I'm like, I'm getting like Manti Te'o'd here or something. But nope, it was all good. It was all legit. And then I don't know if you caught like at the beginning of the episode, what I thought maybe probably could have been perceived as like nervous, which it is Mina Kimes. But so I start the episode with Mina, and everything's working great. Everything's all set up. We're good to go. And she's talking, everything sounds great. And then I start talking, and I'm getting this weird feedback sound like every time I'm talking. And like, so we had 20 minutes set aside. I didn't want to take too much of her time. For anyone that does their own podcast or anything like that, always, if you have a big time guest or anything, always be super respectful of their time. I would have taken 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever. Right. So she was, we set up 20 minutes as a window. I wanted to be very, very cognizant of that. I didn't want to go a minute over, was trying to be cognizant of that. So I'm like 5 minutes into this, and I'm getting this feedback on my end. And I'm like, am I going to record an entire podcast with Mina Kimes and it's going to have bad audio? So then like you go through your head of like, do I stop this and like start it over? Do I look like amateur hour because we're like, we have to like redo that? I'm like, what do I want to do in this situation? And so I'm like thinking on the fly of like, how do I want to handle, like, I don't want this to be like not workable or whatever. I was hopeful that it was just on my side, that it wasn't actually something that was recording, that I was just hearing the feedback on my side, which it thankfully ultimately was. And so my sort of reaction to that the rest of the time was I tried to keep my talking points as few as possible and just kind of lean on her a little bit more. So like if all of a sudden my audio was bad, like it would probably still be like, it would just be like a sentence or two from me. So I tried not to go into like too much detail. But I was so panicked that when we got done with that episode that I was going to be like not usable. And I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. And there's no rhyme or reason for it. All the connectivity was good. All the connection was good. And it sounded all great on post-production. So to this day, I don't know, or like as of now, I had no idea what happened, but man, I was so panicked at the beginning of that, of like, it would have just been brutal if like, here we got Mina and we recorded this whole episode and the sound was just garbage. And I'm like, oh. So if it was a little bit weird at the onset, it was because I was trying to decide in real time, like, do I start this thing over? Do I power through it? Do I try to fix anything in post-production? Thankfully, we went through with it. Everything was good. And up until now, nobody needed to know anything different. But that's the backstory on that. But she was awesome. She was absolutely awesome. Jets lost their defense when Salah left. That was just, the Jets are a nightmare. Like I saw this coming a mile away. I got plenty of, I'm sure I'd have to go back and listen to my preseason prediction episode again. But I remember very vividly talking about one thing and saying, short the Jets. It's not going to work out. There's just too much there. It's too much of a nightmare. And that has definitely been the case. Not a good franchise. Not a good franchise. Don't you think we are reaching dangerous levels with LaFleur's love for his worst players after he said he will keep Stokes' time? No, because I don't think there's anything outside of that one that's really that I'm really concerned about. That's the only one. And again, if Valentine was playing really well, it'd be a bigger concern to me. And even to take it a step further, I think once everyone's healthy, I think it's going to be Jair Nixon on the outside with Bullard in the slot and Williams and McKinney at safety. So I don't think Valentine or Stokes are going to be on the field. So I'm not super concerned about it at the moment. I still think it's dumb. I still wouldn't do it, but that's the only one to me that's really in question of like, are they playing the wrong guy? And I'm hopeful that once everyone's healthy, it's actually kind of much ado about nothing. So that's where I'm kind of at with that one. And I certainly don't think it's anything that egregious where we need to have like this. Oh, like, is Matt LaFleur the wrong guy? No, listen, every team has like a guy that they like for some inexplicable reason. The Packers have had one for freaking ever. Like whether it's Kevin King or Eric Stokes or like you guys can name probably 1,000 off the top of your head. Like there's always someone, right? And I don't get it. I don't pretend to get it, but hopefully it doesn't hurt them too much. Who would you keep if you could only afford one when their contract is up, Watson or Doubs? This one to me, Joey, and I've talked about this a little bit in the past. I'm not paying either of them until their contracts are up. I'm not giving them either extensions. I want to see how both of them look next year. I want to see, because there was the weird Doubs situation earlier this year. And, Watson's obviously had a lot of injury issues. So I want to see those two continue to go out. Do they take any jump? Do they have any more injuries? Is there any more Romeo Doubs, conduct detrimental to the team situations? Like that one I'm taking all the way up until end of next year and into the offseason. And then to me, it's just going to come down to dollars and cents. If they're both willing to sign contracts that make sense for the team, I would love them back. And if not, then awesome. They'll probably get paid a big contract from somebody else, and good for them. But I would expect Green Bay to draft a wide receiver in the top 4 or 5 rounds this year, probably top 4 rounds this year, to continue to stack that cupboard a little bit, prevent against if all of a sudden they would be left without Watson and Doubs. But my guess is they probably keep one of them, and in large part that will go to who is asking for the bigger contract and who plays better over the course of the next year and a half-ish. Be at the game on Sunday wearing my 52 Matthews jersey. MR Hall, love that. Enjoy the game and bring us back a victory, please. Should we be drafting a corner next year or sign a vet? All of the above. I mean, first of all, they're going to probably draft 2 corners would be my guess, almost no matter what. And that should be step number 1. And one of them should probably be their first round pick, quite honestly, but probably at least in the first 2 rounds. But they'll definitely draft a couple corners. And then whether or not they need to sign a big time free agent is going to be dependent upon what they do with Jair and Nixon. If they let Jair and Nixon both go and they release both of them, and Nixon as a roster bonus due March 1st, I think it is, or early March, then they will, if they let both those guys go, they're going to probably have to sign. They can't just go into the season with 2 rookies, Carrington Valentine and Kalen King, right? Like that's not going to work. So I do think if their ability and likelihood of signing a corner will be tied to what they do with Nixon and Jair Alexander, and if they keep them on the team or not. If they keep Nixon and Alexander, I would expect that they keep Nixon and Alexander and just draft 2 guys and probably go Nixon, Alexander, Valentine, 2 rookies, and Kalen King is probably like your 6. And then if they let go of, Alexander and Nixon, then I would say they probably sign a pretty big time free agent corner and then go with him, Valentine, and probably 2 rookies, King, and they probably make more of like a value free agent signing at that point, or bring somebody back like a Corey Ballantyne or Robert Rochelle or something like that. That'd be my guess, Daryl. But I think there will be some sort of makeover at that position. Just before I go to bed, I'm here just to send love to all the people in the beautiful community, and of course the amazing Andy. Go Pack Go. Mike, enjoy your sleep, my friend. Go Pack Go, and thank you so much for the kind words. The Packers bringing back their winter warning jerseys on Sunday. It's the all-white jersey, whatever those are called. So yes, it's all white, and Seattle has their neon green jersey. It's a very ugly jersey matchup. There's no 2 ways around it. It's a very, very ugly uniform matchup, but that's what we get, and we'll make the most of it. Andy, every week. No, we talked about that. I think, yeah, we went over that one. Yep. All right, let's see. If the secondary can get healthy, then they give the rush a little bit more time to get home. Yes, but I would prefer it were the other way around. I wish the rush was getting there so that the corners had to cover like last time, right? So that would be my preference, because then now you're getting pressure, maybe forcing some stupid decisions, and your corners don't have to cover as long. So that would be my bigger choice, rather than let's cover longer to give more time for the defensive ends to get home. I'd rather the defensive ends get home so you don't have to cover as long. But I'll take what I can get at this point. Andy, Brandon from the Hawks Nest channel had a link to your channel here. Had to just subscribe to say thanks for doing the show with. Going back to watch your video with him. We'll stop back. Awesome. Hey, thanks so much for that. I appreciated that. Addicted to Hawks. Hope you enjoyed the conversation today. I think he's asking about the alternate uniforms. Yeah, we talked about that. What's my favorite alternate uniform? Gotcha. I don't have one. I like their traditionals, to be honest. But I've said this for a while now. As long as the 2 current jerseys, the home and away, stay as they are, if you want to use 2 alternate random throwback whatever jerseys 1 or 2 times a year, go have fun. Go have as much fun as you want. Make an all black jersey, make a chartreuse jersey. I don't care. go do what you need to do to sell those jerseys and market them any way that you want and make some of your fan base happy and some of your fan base really angry. And we'll talk about it here and we'll talk about it on talk radio. If Green Bay's ruining tradition by doing something, go do that. Go have fun with your 1 or 2 jerseys a year. Just don't change what's working. And the 2 jerseys right now, in my opinion, the home and the away, are perfect. Don't do anything to them. And whatever you want to do on your throwbacks or alternates or all whites or all greens or all whatever, go have fun. Knock yourself out. Don't care. Let's see. Same here. I don't do jerseys and I'm 22. I'm not wearing another man's name on my back. I don't care. Like anyone that wants to, go do you. Like if I looked awesome in a jersey, I'd wear a jersey. I don't know. I don't know. Not my thing. As you guys can probably tell, I'm a hoodie and hat guy. I'm very much a hoodie and hat guy. Let's see. Colin, thank you for being a member for 7 months. Any offense drafted besides offensive line, big D or otherwise? Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of defense, but I do expect probably 2 offensive linemen and a wide receiver. That's my guess. 2 offensive linemen, a wide receiver, and the rest on defense. That'd be my prediction. Wouldn't shock me if they took a quarterback just to maybe have somebody ready for if they lose Malik Willis the following year. But I think for the most part, this is going to be 2 offensive linemen, 1 wide receiver, and then like 5 or 6 defensive players. Folks, with how much the league favors the offense, good teams are going to gain yards. It's how it's going to be. That is also very true. Is Doubs going to play this Sunday? I will say he will. Matt LaFleur said yesterday that it was trending in that direction. Listen, if there's any concern about it whatsoever, I'm sure they will be safe with it. But my guess is that he probably plays. Now, maybe they limit him a little bit, which is fine because they have the depth, right? But I think he'll play in some capacity. I see some similarities between the 2024 Packers and the 2020 Bucks, especially the way they played the division champion. A guy can hope for the same outcome. Hey, find any comparison to Super Bowl teams that you want to find. I do think there's some similarities with 2010 as well, but maybe sometimes we just want to see the tea leaves the way that we want to see them, but I'll take any good sign and good vibe at this point in time as we get ready for playoff football. Most State of Minnesota, thank you so much for gifting some memberships. I'm sure whoever ended up getting those will be very thankful, which looks like Ben Green and maybe New York Cheese. I think New York Cheese had already was a member though, right? But either way, yeah, awesome to see some extra people get some memberships here. So thank you for that, Most State of Minnesota. Always supportive, and I appreciate you a ton. And go Pack, go. Demarius Randall, Josh Jackson, etc. If we draft them, they pretty much are staying. Yeah, Randall, Rollins, Josh Jackson, Eric Stokes. Man, if this team could just draft corners, probably have a couple extra Super Bowls or 2. But alas, it is not to be. Sometimes you sign the deal with the devil. You can have a great quarterback for as long as you want, but nobody's great at drafting everything, I guess. What do you think about our corners going against DK? Again, I'm not super concerned about on the outsides because they've been pretty good at that. And then that's where the safe down the field and outside is where the safeties can kind of come into play a little bit as well. I'm still just very worried about the middle of the field. So Jackson Smith and Jigba, especially working in the middle of the field, that's probably the one I'm worried about a little bit more in this game. Go Pack, go. Hope Doubs is all good. Hope he sees a lot of targets on Sunday night. Yeah, I'd love to get him going. Absolutely love to get him going and just kind of, picking up where I think he started the season. And we saw some big time playoff performances from him last year. Like they need him to be a really good player. I think he can obviously be a very good player, and just excited to see what he can do when he gets back. All right. We are out of questions, guys. Any other ones before we get out of here? Mike Wall coming up tomorrow. Really great conversation with Mike today. Just awesome conversation with Mike. I love talking to him every single time, but this one was a really fun one. So you can look forward to that tomorrow. No happy hour tomorrow. We'll do live pre and post game prior to and right after the Seahawks game on Sunday. So look forward to that. But yeah. Andy, I saw a live stream earlier where you were asked about Green Bay's draft and develop strategy on defense. And you went on to say that their draft and develop strategies worked a lot, but went on to ... the plot thickens. Who's my favorite? I'll get back to you, Alex, when you post the second part of that. Who's my favorite NFL commentators? I don't know that I've never been like, I've never really cared all that much. Like I said, I'm not huge on Al Michaels and Herb Street. Everyone else I can usually find some sort of enjoyment with. Greg Olson does a phenomenal job. Burkhardt, well, before it was when it was Burkhardt and Olson, that was probably my favorite. Kevin Harlan's amazing. I absolutely love Kevin Harlan. So Yeah, I don't know that I have a tandem that I love at the moment, but usually I just enjoy it in almost all of the tandems in some capacity. I think they do a really great job. New York, she said, "You're welcome." All right, so worked a lot, but then you went on to name exclusively offensive players that they've developed: Rodgers, Love, and Nelson. Oh, so the question was about draft and develop strategy on defense. Yeah, I'll just say, and I don't think I'm breaking any news here. They haven't done a good enough job of it. I don't think it always just comes down to draft and develop or just the RAS stuff. Like Edgerrin Cooper, Evan Williams, Javon Bullard, those guys look pretty darn good, pretty great fits for this defense. Obviously through the years they have found we might have to go back a little bit, but like obviously Clay Matthews was a huge draft and develop type of player. It's not like they've completely struck out everywhere, right? Jair Alexander, right? Like that was a really good draft pick. He's regressed some specifically due to the injuries. Rashawn Gary was definitely there. Like he had made it as I don't know if I'll say top tier pass rusher, but probably a really great tier 2 pass rusher. And then the ACL, I think, really has set him back. But like they've done some really good things too, but it's just not been good enough. I don't think it's just one thing. I don't think it's just RAS. I don't think it's just taking players that you have to develop a little bit over time. I don't think it's any one thing. Devonte Wyatt was supposed to be a plug and play player at defensive tackle, one of the most NFL ready players in that draft, 24 years old, University of Georgia, freak athlete, showed it at Georgia, like was tearing it. Like he was supposed to be able to come in and immediately make that impact. And he has not. He has not done that. LVN was supposed to be a little bit more of a, hey, let's give this a couple years thing. That has not developed, at least as of yet, the way that you would have wanted it to. So regardless of position, regardless of how they're going about it, regardless of, just the athlete or ready to play player, you just have to hit more than what they've been hitting on. It's just that it's as simple as that. And there's no perfect formula, as I talked about the other day. If there were if you find a SEC player with, a ton of production that has that has good athleticism, he's going to be a great player. Well, then that's what everyone would be doing. Like Green Bay has gone to the big colleges, right? A lot of Georgia defenders, Alabama defenders, Clinton Dix, and so on and so forth. That's not exactly worked for them. They've gone the high-end athleticism route. That hasn't exactly worked for them. They've gone the route of like finding, just good defenders that know how to play the game the right way, but maybe don't have the athleticism. That hasn't always worked for them, so you've got to find good players. And whether that takes them a year or two to develop or whether they're ready to play right away, I don't really care which one that is. But you better, if you're drafting somebody to play now, they better be ready to play now. And if you're drafting somebody that may take a year or two, fine, so be it. But in a year or 2, 3 years, whatever it is, like they better be ready to play. And we just haven't seen that progression from a lot of those players that I think any of us would have liked. And quite frankly, if there's a reason that this team is not going to make that Super Bowl run this year, you can point to Eric Stokes, Quay Walker, Devonte Wyatt, LVN, Jordan Morgan to a lesser extent, because again, we don't exactly know yet, but like the ROI in 2024 that you're getting off of first round draft picks not named Jordan Love, it's ugly. It's really ugly. Darnell Savage obviously gone. Jair Alexander hurt. Rashawn Gary not playing up to expectations. Like the Goody first round picks outside of Jordan Love, nowhere near where you need them to be. And if you just hit on those, and easier said than done, but like the crazy thing is he's hit on a lot of the late round guys at a ridiculous level. If you just hit on good players with your first round pick, like it's crazy to think where this team would be right now. So it's unfortunate. No GM is perfect. Every GM usually has some flaw to their game, just like an NFL player would. They're continuing to work at their craft, and Goody will get better. And there's like this draft right now with getting it, especially on defense, Edgerrin Cooper, Javon Bullard, Evan Williams, etc. Like that's a good start. That gives me some optimism. And these last 2 drafts combined have been pretty darn good, but really need to hit on those early first round draft picks. And it's been an issue. I don't have a perfect solution to it, but hopefully Goody can get it fixed and find ways to draft more impactful players. And hopefully some of those guys can turn it around and have very impactful careers for Green Bay. Let's see. assuming we keep Halfley, what 2025 free agent cornerbacks do you think would be a good fit? Brandon, we will get there, I promise, but I'm not ready to talk free agency and draft quite yet. As I usually talk about, if I'm ready to go into free agency and draft in it from a deep dive standpoint in December, I'm not covering this 2024 team the way that I need to be doing it. So I love multitasking. I love looking ahead. I love looking at what this Packers team will look like. And we've done some episodes on that already, but going into deep dives into, players that could fit as free agents or draft picks, we'll get to that as soon as the season is over. So hopefully sometime in mid-February. Thanks for the live stream, Andy. Really enjoyed hearing about behind the scenes tonight. You are more than welcome. Appreciate you, Nil. Driver Langston. Oh yeah, those were more that I talked about. Hit the like button. Thoughts on easing back on Jacob's workload over the course of the next 4 weeks to keep him fresh for the playoffs? Yeah, I mean, go out and try to find a way to play your best football and make sure you clinch that playoff berth first. But if you can do so while maybe getting his legs a little bit fresh for playoff time, I would not be against that at all. I'm not real savvy in the business of being an online content creator like you. I know you work a ton of hours. Does it provide enough income that is worth it financially? I love your content. Craig, I will just say that I am blessed to be able to do what I'm doing. I'm loving every second of it. I wouldn't change anything whatsoever. And I appreciate all the support that you guys provide, whether it's via super chats or just tuning in, liking, subscribing, commenting, becoming YouTube members. You guys are what makes this thing go. I'm just along for the ride. And without you guys, it would not be something that I could do on a daily basis as a full-time job. So appreciate you guys a ton. I'm going to get out of here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Go enjoy some 49ers Rams or whatever else you want to do on this beautiful Thursday night. Packers Seahawks Sunday. Again, I'll be doing a live pre and post game show. That'll be my next live content. Mike Wall coming up tomorrow. And of course, we'll have episodes for you on Saturday and Sunday as well. See y'all soon. Enjoy your night. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.